Hello neighbor, this is Curt with eTrailer, and today we're going to take a look at the Yakima StageTwo bike carrier on our 2024 Toyota 4Runner. Now if you've got any experience at all with this bike carrier, or if you've got some questions about it, just go ahead and leave those in the comments below. We'd love to take your questions and your stories and share them with our other neighbors in order to help them make the best decision for themselves. Now the Yakima StageTwo is a steel bike carrier. It is powder coated to help with corrosion resistance. And being made of steel is going to make it very, very sturdy. However, it is important to note that this bike carrier does weigh about 63 pounds. Now, that sturdiness is going to allow you to carry two bikes up to 70 pounds apiece, so it will accommodate your e-bikes. It is wheel mounted by this arm and hook, which is adjustable up and down for different wheel sizes. And in the back, it's going to be attached by this ratcheting strap, which can also be moved forward and back to accommodate different wheelbases. Now, keep in mind that I mentioned that it is 63 pounds. It is 70 pounds per bike. So if you have this maxed out, I want you to keep in mind that when using the tilt feature, you are going to feel a lot of that weight. So if you are carrying two heavy bikes like that and you do have it maxed out, whoever's riding with you, it's a good idea to have back there to help you with the tilt feature. But the tilt feature is activated using this handle. You do need to lift up on it slightly for it to engage and then tilt downward and away. Now this is going to be great for when you want access to your lift gate without removing the bikes themselves. So now we've got plenty of room to get in and out of here without removing the bike, and this is going to be really, really accommodating while we're out and about on our bike rides. Now let's talk a little bit about visibility for you and for other drivers on the road. As you can see, your taillights are going to be partially obstructed as well as your license plate. You're also going to have some obstruction through your rear view camera as well. So it is going to be important while you have this deployed to keep in mind exactly what kind of clearance you have back here so that, when you're pulling into tight spaces or backing in somewhere, you know that you're not going to endanger your bike rack or your vehicle. So let's take a few measurements and see exactly what kind of footprint this puts on the back of our 4Runner. So from the bumper to the end of our bike rack here, we are looking at approximately 41 inches. So that's how much extra room you want to be, take into account when you're getting into those spaces that you really need to know how much room that you've got. Another measurement we should take a look at is ground clearance. Now, ground clearance on this is pretty impressive. We're looking here at the end at 26.5 inches. And we're also going to take another measurement at the shank here, which is going to put us at just under 17 inches. Now, that's more ground clearance than you're going to get out of most bike racks. So if you are planning on taking your 4Runner off the beaten path, I'm not worried about any kind of ground clearance or anything like that if you take it off road. But one thing to keep in mind with that ground clearance is if you are taking some of those heavier bikes out, that's kind of a pretty tall height to be lifting a 60 or 70 pound bike on and off here. And for those instances, Yakima does offer a collapsible ramp that is pretty easy to store in the vehicle and attach to the end of your bike carrier so that you can ramp those heavier bikes on and off. And those are available here at eTrailer. And another big concern that most people have when it comes to their bike carriers is security, not just of the bikes themselves, but of the carrier too. So Yakima uses what's called the SKS, or same key system, which is going to allow you to key everything alike on your Yakima system, along with any other Yakima products you may have, including roof racks, cargo carriers, or anything like that. You do have the ability to get them all keyed alike. Now on this rack, there's a couple of security features in that regard. For the bikes themselves, there is a stowed cable lock right here in the tower. We can bring that around here. It will attach to this post here, and at that point, we could lock it in, and we have our bike locked to the rack. Now, as far as locking the rack to the vehicle, that is going to be located in this knob here. So the way this knob works is that inside the shank of the bike carrier is a wedge system that as you tighten this knob, it's going to expand. That's going to secure it into the hitch receiver, and not only that, also help reduce any of the movement and vibration and rattle that you normally get out of these hitch bike carriers. So the key is going to lock right there. That is going to lock your carrier into your hitch receiver, while the cable locks up top are going to secure the bikes to the carrier. Everything then keyed alike so that it's very easy to manage. Now there are of course going to be times where you're driving around town without your bikes. And in those cases, being a 63-pound bike carrier, I can completely understand not wanting to remove it and reattach it every time you're driving around just because you don't have your bikes with you. Well, this does have a stowaway feature, and we're going to remove the bike and take a look at that right now. When removing the bike, you're of course going to unlock your cable lock. Remove our ratchet strap on the rear wheel. And lastly, release the tower. We're going to fold that this way for now as we come around and remove our bike. Now that we have our bike removed, we could go ahead and stow our straps. We're just going to simply fold this over as such. And now we're going to use that same handle we used for the tilt feature for the stowaway feature. Bring it right up there until it clicks. Now without the bikes on, this is going to significantly reduce the footprint behind the vehicle. As you can still see behind it, we're going to have a lot more obstruction on the license plate. That is going to obstruct the rear view still as well. So let's take a look at what kind of clearance we're going to get while we have it on in the stowed position. So from the bumper to the end of our bike carrier, we're sitting right at 15.5 inches. So again, a significant reduction in the footprint. However, in the stowed position, it is going to be a little bit more obstructive than when the bikes are actually on it. So just bear that in mind as you're traveling. Now, you may have come across times where maybe you have a few extra people who want to go along for the ride, or as it happens over time, families can expand and you want to be able to carry more than 2 bikes with you. If that's ever the case, there is a 2-bike add-on from Yakima for the StageTwo that is available here at eTrailer, so check that out if you're interested. But for now, there's a look at the Yakima StageTwo on our 2024 Toyota 4Runner. I'm Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.